These young men has actually lived that life and they experience prison on a daily basis.
That is the voice of David Jassy, a young man that I met a while back. I'm not even sure if it was a year, 2 years ago, going into San Quentin prison for the Last Mile program, which I'm a member of the board with Chris Redlitz and Bev Parenti. And it was one of the most, Tracy, I don't know if you recall when I came back and talked about that experience. I had a revelation meeting yeah, man, it changed my life in many ways, meeting all these talented individuals who were incarcerated for various reasons. I met people who were lifers. I met people who took other people's lives. I met people who were falsely accused. I met all sorts of people behind bars and realized that this felt like a forgotten generation of people, forgotten generation, population of men. And in the process, going into our Last Mile program, which teaches folks how to code so when they come out of incarceration, they'll have a viable asset they can offer to the community and to society as a whole. And we were doing a career day where people were doing their presentations for different corporations and startup companies in Silicon Valley, and I got a chance to have a lot of one-on-one conversations. One of the conversations I had was with a man, Curtis, by the name of that goes by Wall Street. And this is a young man who taught himself how to navigate through the stock market successfully and had done TED Talks and became really popular because of his ability to do so with a lack of resources. And the interview we did went viral and brought a lot of attention to what's going on with people behind bars. Another person I met was this man we talking to today. And I remember having a brief conversation with him about him being a producer and talking about the project that I believe is the same project that we are about to celebrate today. And at that time thinking, this sounds good. How is he going to be able to put this together, though?
Right.
I'm like, man, damn, the dude is dope. He's from Sweden. I know this dude got beats. He's a Grammy a winning producer. He's done all of these great things, and he's behind bars. You know, how is he going to put this together? And he made it happen. So I want to welcome him to the show, the one and only David Jassy. Give him a round of applause.
Hey, Dave.
How you doing, David?
Hey, thank you so much for having me today. I'm really honored to be part of this show. You know, I grew up listening to you, Sway. And nice to meet you, too, Tracy. It's an honor to be on the show.
Yeah. Do you recall when I recall, like, I can see exactly where we were. I remember you telling me about this project and that you produced. Do you recall that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were back there in the Last Mile graduation, and you came through. And I remember actually us standing there talking, and I could see actually what you're saying. I could see that doubt in your eyes too, because there's a lot of red tape just to get stuff out of the prison, and it hasn't been an easy journey, but. It's crazy to actually the fact that I'm actually free. I got commuted by Gavin Newsom last month, but also the fact that I'm celebrating this mixtape being released today. So, yeah, it's a crazy experience, man.
Well, you were commuted. I didn't realize you were commuted. So for time served, and so you're released and you're on parole now. No,
so at the time when I met you, I had 15 years to life. I was basically a lifer. And about a month ago, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, commuted my sentence, and with immediate release within 5 days. And part of the reason was that mixtape and the work that I did with the youngsters inside of prison.
Mm-hmm. And
so I'm back in Sweden.
And you're back in Sweden, and you, if just for total transparency, you served time behind bars over a confrontation that you had that a person ended up dying. Correct?
Exactly. Yeah. I was convicted of second-degree murder for an altercation at a crosswalk in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. And so you served your time, and now you're back in Sweden. When you were behind bars, you didn't want to give up on your passion, but it seemed like you went from producing for Britney Spears to producing to youth offenders in the YOP program. How were you even able to make that happen? And how were you able to get people behind, that were locked up, incarcerated to participate?
It wasn't an easy process. At first, I was in Solana State Prison, and all I had at the time was a guitar. So I used to just stay writing songs. I wrote my song Freedom over there, the one I did on the TEDx talk as well from San Quentin. But once I got to San Quentin, I saw there was a few guys that had a keyboard. So I was trying to get a keyboard, and no matter how much I tried, everybody was like, nah, they stopped the intake of the keyboards. So I kept doing that for like 2 months, and then eventually I just called my friend in Sweden. I said, you know what, just order a keyboard anyway. Let's see if I get it in or not. And then the day of, when the keyboard came, just so happened to be Marcelli Gator, who had been incarcerated for over 40 years, had a good relationship with a person down there, and he saw that they were going to send the keyboard back, and he was like, hold on, that's Marcelli's keyboard. You should let him have it, man. He gonna teach me how to play piano. And he was like, you ain't going to play no piano. But, long story short, I ended up getting the keyboard. I had to run there. They gave me 15 minutes to come down and get the keyboard, and they allowed me to keep it. And that's how I started making beats in my cell. And a lot of people on the tier used to come by my cell and just spit a hot 16. And we used to have ciphers outside my cell. And slowly but surely, more and more youthful offenders started coming to San Quentin. So it was a youthful offender program that came through legislation, which enabled more youthful offenders to go to a prison like San Quentin where they have more programs. So I thought about it, and I thought about, a lot of the guys that I saw that was rapping had a lot of talent, but it was still glorifying the street life and glorifying crimes, and we were all in prison. And we all have victims in our cases, and it didn't sit right with me. And I felt like, it would be dope to actually have a true, authentic mixtape where we actually talk about the real pain and the real suffering that we have, like the causative factors, the childhood growing up, and being totally transparent about that, but doing so in a language where the whole world can relate to it, because we already have a lot of prejudice against people in prison. And I also thought about that if you have curse words in your raps, this kind of like a barrier to your true authenticity when it comes to like digging really, really deep. And if you have to really dig deep and rap without curse words, you got to come up with different words to explain it. And there's something interesting that's happening when you take out the curse word. And in the beginning, a lot of the youngsters, of course, they wanted to get on the mic, but a lot of them didn't know how to spit on the microphone without, cussing. So I said, well, if you're a true MC, you should be able to. So I kind of challenged them a little bit, and that worked. They came back, and I'm amazed of just the stories that they were telling me, blew me away. And, at the time, I had the keyboard in the cell, but I only had a stripped-down version of Pro Tools in the media center where I was working. So I had to figure out how to work that around it. So I brought the keyboard down to the media center, and I just took 2 channels out, and I started, playing around. I basically made all the beats in the keyboard, and then I put it into the Pro Tools. It may sound a little technical, but it's not like the professional way to do it.
Yeah. It's like the bootleg way.
Yeah. So half of the mixtape is basically made on the keyboard. And then a producer from Hollywood called Greg Wells is a Canadian producer who worked with Katy Perry and Adele and so forth. He heard about the program, and he donated software and an iMac to the music program, which enabled me to make a little bit, better sounding beats, as well as Jamie Lunder and Bobby, 2 donors that came in and donated a lot of money to the music program. So as the program grew, we got more and more attention, and eventually, we had a mixtape. And it's crazy, looking back, I made more than 100 songs, and during the course of 4 years. Yeah. And it's just crazy to be here where we are today.
Yeah, man. And it's interesting because couple things you said that, people tend to forget about folks once they're incarcerated. You know, it's almost like they don't exist any longer. You know, if you're out of sight, out of mind. And another thing is the pain and the remorse, even yours. You know, the person, the John. How do you say it's John Osnes? As the person that lost his life in your altercation, and why do you feel? You know, you said you wanted folks to be able to express their pain and talk about what's real and the remorse. People a lot of times think that folks behind bars don't have any remorse, the ones that actually committed a crime or got convicted of a crime. But that's not the case, is it, David?
Not at all. If I speak for myself, I have tremendous remorse, and I had tremendous remorse the day after I woke up and realized what I had done. Taking another man's life is not something I wish on anyone. It's something I live with every day. It's the pain I feel. It's something I had to really stop and look within myself and ask myself, what is it within me that made me act so impulsively that night? Because it was really a situation that could have been solved with a few words. And it was an altercation at the crosswalk, what they named it as a road rage incident. But that pain is something I live with every day. It's the pain that I know people in prison live with every day. It's a fact that you can't turn back the time. However, what you can do is what you do with the time from now on. And that's the focus I've really been trying to work on, and trying to just put out good into the world and work on myself, make sure that I'm a safe individual to return back to society. Make sure that I deal with all my childhood traumas, all my causative factors, realizing victim impact, realizing that not only did I hurt the victim, but I hurt the victim's family. Not only did I hurt all these people, the ripple effect of it, but also on so many different levels. There's so many different kinds of impact: psychological impact, physical impact, emotional impact, spiritual impact. And there's some, you don't think of when you commit the crime. But once you get inside of prison and you really get the time to really think about what you've done and really live with it, sit in the fire and really be truthful with that pain and not try to escape, but really take responsibility and accountability for the actions. And that's something I've been working really hard on, and really trying to be transparent with myself and true to myself and be honest about what I've done and not minimize it or deny it.
David Jassy is here. The San Quentin Mixtape Volume 1 is out today. Being distributed by Equity Distribution. It's a branch of Rock Nation, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and so you got Jay-Z and a slew of other celebrities that have been behind you, including myself. But MC Hammer, J. Cole was in San Quentin not too long ago. Common, Meek Mill, Fat Joe, Khaled. All of these people appear on the mixtape, but there's a person who actually, who's been in San Quentin, actually personally stepped into San Quentin to see, just to have that experience. And she has something that she wanted to say, and then how she was involved in just the motivating and inspiration of this project. I'm going to play this clip real quick, and I want to ask you about this person. Play that clip for me.
Hi, David. It's Kim. I wanted to congratulate you and all of the young men at San Quentin State Prison that worked on your first ever mixtape. You guys should be so proud of yourselves. I remember coming to visit San Quentin and seeing how dedicated and how passionate you have always been with the music program there, and how you really helped shape all of these men's lives, teaching them how to work, all of the equipment, showing them how to just write songs, be a part of all these songs. And now that the world gets to hear your passion through this music, it's just so amazing. So again, I just wanted to congratulate you and all of the men in San Quentin. It's amazing, and I can't wait for the world to hear it.
What does it mean to have all of these celebrities in when you guys see a Kim Kardashian come into a prison to see, just to experience it herself and visit?
It's truly a blessing, and it's giving all the guys on the tape the extra boost that they need, because, society has pretty much deemed us as felons, and failures. So to just have that backup from the industry to, get a second chance at doing what we love, and the fact that they recognize that we're really trying to improve our lives and do something positive and give back to the communities is a beautiful feeling, and it's truly a blessing.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Hey, David, thank you so much again for joining us. I'm so proud of you and everyone for bringing this into manifestation, into life, because it's not only a contribution to the community, but a contribution to your soul, this form of catharsis. Yeah. I'm interested in knowing, out of all the ears that could listen to this, what level of importance is it possibly where the families of the victims from some of the crimes that they hear this?
I think the family of the victims, I think it's their choice whether they want to hear it or not. However, I can say that I've sat in a few circles where it's called restorative justice. And basically, what happens in those circles is that the victim meets the offender, and we sit and we talk, and you get to meet mothers that lost their son to gun violence in Oakland, or you may have a conversation with somebody that has been brutally robbed, and there's an exchange where the offender can speak of his thoughts and what he was going through during that time, where he was at, and why he did what he did or she did. In the same way, the victim or the crime survivors, that some people want to talk, call it, can actually express what it feels like to lose somebody, the pain that they felt the day of when they heard it, what it feels like to want to call the person, but that person is not there no more because they got killed. All the pain and the suffering. And I've seen the healing and the tears that were shared at the end of it, and we almost felt like we were all family at once. And it's a beautiful process. I know Van Jones also had a few episodes where he
had the Redemption Project. He did the Redemption Project on CNN, and he showed it. He showed that. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. And I'm not telling the victim families what to do. I would just suggest it because I think it could be healing to know that a lot of crimes are done out of hurt. They in San Quentin would say hurt people, and heal people, heal people.
Right.
And if it could serve as some form of comfort or healing, then I think it could be good. But I also think as a preventative measure, knowing the pain of the offender, knowing what caused certain offenders to do certain things. So if you really want to stop crime, you got to understand what's going on in the minds of the people that's committing the crime. And who's better to tell that than people that's actually doing time for a crime? And I think it's, at the end of the story, what I really want to tell is the human story. It's the fact that, media often want to sensationalize, through shows like Lockdown and all this, like the danger and the monsters in prison. But there's also another side, which is, to me, the more authentic side, is that these are humans that made a very bad decision. But there's also a reason. There's also a causative factor. There's always a reason why these crimes were committed. And I'm not saying that to minimize or in any way lessen what these individuals, including myself, did, but I'm saying it to just have people think on a more deeper level. Like, if we really want to solve these issues, we have to look at both sides. We have to look at both the offender and the victim, and the whole court system as a whole as well. And it's a social justice issue. It's it's a bigger issue than just the crime. It's always more to it.
David Jassy is here, produced, put together, took him 4 years. The San Quentin Mixtape, Volume 1 is out today, streaming across all platforms. The proceeds will benefit the National Center for Victims of Crime, the Boys and Girls Club of Oakland, in Potrero Hill neighborhood house. You have some incredible artists on this project. I listened through the whole album. Songs like Same Prison as My Grandfather is heart-wrenching to hear people talk about the cyclical effect of incarceration and how a grandson was in the same prison as his grandfather, one daughter, and you hear people talking about not being able to be connected with their kids while being behind bars. Dear Mama, Window Pane is one of my favorite songs on the album. Which is an incredibly produced song as well. I'm going to play Learn From My Mistakes to close this interview, but are there any artists, can you shout out the artists that are on this project?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to De Niro, Dope, Dre, Dutta, EJ, Flock, Fly Kai, Fulion, Jay Stone, JoJo, Cam, Maserati E, Papa, Scoop Stack, Flicker, Con, Trey Reddy. I'm proud of all of them. It's been amazing. It's hard for me to pick a favorite because there's so much stories behind each song. Man, I'm just excited that the world gets to hear what I've been experiencing for these last, few years. There's so much more talent coming up on the coming volumes. And there's so much talent in prison, not only in San Quentin, but probably in every prison there is in America and in every hood. There's so much, talent out there. And my wish is that the young kids that's listening to this is that you don't have to go that route. There are other routes. And I would love if these stories could somehow give you some kind of guidance into what you're doing and what you're going through right now and prevent you from doing what you possibly may do. And I'm also hoping that outside of these communities, that people that may live in Middle America that may not be that familiar to hip-hop can also get a glimpse of what it's like to come up in a neighborhood where you have to deal with a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that it's like a universal record that can speak to all kinds of people, and that it's a unifying factor for all humans.
The truth in these songs, to all those artists you named, this coming from me personally, you guys did an excellent job finding your truth and expressing it on this music. Songs like you were saying, Hard Times, Window Panes, Bars, Dear Mama, Speed Limit, You Don't Know. Sunrise Over San Quentin is incredible. Rich People Problems, One Daughter, Same Prison as My Grandfather, Break the Mold, Diamonds, Forward, Chicken Got the Chow Hall Packed. All these different songs give you an insight on these people's pain, their truth. I want to thank you, David, and say congratulations for completing this project and continued success. Shout out to Rock Nation and Equity Distribution Company that's providing this to all the platforms. Salute to YOP as well, for everybody in YOP that's trying to make a difference, the Youth Offenders Program and aiming to better themselves. And then also Chris Redless wanted me to tell you hi, and Bev, they wanted me to tell you hi from the Last Mile program and salute to you.
Man, Sway, I can't thank you enough, man. And thank you for the work you're doing and being on the board of the Last Mile. It's a really important project. And thank you to Chris Redlitz and Beverly Parenti. Thank you to Ward and Ron Davis, Broomfield, PIO, Sam Robinson, Rafael Casali, Cut 50, Equity Distribution, Jamie London. There's so many people I want to thank. QD3, Greg Wells. There's so many volunteers. Tom Lipinski. The list goes on and on and on. Bird Communications. I don't want to miss anybody, but there's so many people that's been helping on this project. Inky from Iceland. We even have a volunteer from Iceland on this project. Mm-hmm. So it's been a crazy journey, Sway, and thank you so much for having me on the show. It's truly a blessing, and thank you, Tracy, as well.
Man, I got chills, David, because I remember like it was yesterday, and I feel like it was 2 years ago that I was there I've been there a couple of times, but when we had that conversation, and you read my eyes right, it wasn't so much doubt as much as it was perplexity. I was just so perplexed. Like, how is he going to produce an album in San Quentin? But you did it, man. So salute to you. I'm glad you have your freedom. You're no longer behind bars, but that you continue to do this work that you're doing. David Jassy, man, appreciate you. We're going to play the song. Let me see. I'm going to play I Learned From My Mistakes. Who's the MCs on that?
The MC on Learn From My Mistake is Lil Joe, and I'm doing the hook.
And that's you doing the hook?
That's
Listen to the
hook.
lyrics. And everything on this project is real. It's not a rapper who got into a studio and faking a life that they never lived. These are the folks these are the folks whose lives they're rapping about. Pick up this project, citizens. I'm going to keep saying it. San Quentin Mixtape Volume 1. David, take care. We'll be in communication. Won't you hit me up at Real Sway on my social, okay?
For sure.
Shoot me a DM, okay? I'll be playing your music.
All right.
All right. Thank you, brother. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Right,
David John. Wait, hold up. Well, I want you to hear me start the song so you can hear your song being played on the radio. We got Anthony Anderson is up next. Our brother Anthony Anderson is here. You want to talk with Anthony Anderson? You know who Anthony Anderson is, right, David, from Blackish?
No, I don't.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, get up on it now that you're free, man. Go do some research. He's big. He's huge, all right? What was the first thing you did when you got free?
I called my son. Something I've been waiting to do for a long time.
Wow.
Call my son.
There it is. Well, say salute to your son. Tell him Uncle Sway said hi. Here it is. Learn from my mistakes. Anthony Anderson up next.